Now tuned into the greatest.
The Run with Manny Wilson Podcast.
The Run with Manny Wilson Podcast.
The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. I appreciate you tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, you disagree with, you like or you dislike, go ahead, shoot us a quick take, 219-413-9405. And of course, we'll play your take back on our next episode. And shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode. Get $20 off your first ticket purchase when you use the promo code, The Run Podcast. Now, this code can only be applied for first-time users on the mobile app or website. So I don't know about you, but I'm going to a couple games this year, so I had to create me an account, use the promo code, save myself $20. Anyway, I'm here with a special guest. I'm here with the Atlanta Falcons insider with the Falcoholic and also the host of Dirty Bids Brews. Kevin Knight is here with me today. How's it going, Kevin?
Going good, Manny. Nice. We've been trying to set this up for a couple weeks, so glad we can finally make it work.
Absolutely, man. Me too. I'm super excited to get it started, man. Get to talk to another Falcons fan, and you know a lot about the Falcons. You cover the Falcons a lot. You talk about. I see the articles and everything you write about them. So definitely, first, good work. I see. But let's go ahead and break it down. Of course, man. Let's break it down. I got to start right first and foremost. The thing with this team that's been driving me the craziest is been the inconsistency within the offense. So I got to ask, what's up with all the inconsistency within the Atlanta Falcons offense? What are you noticing here?
Yeah, I think, well, when they've been losing offensive linemen in the middle of games, and that obviously disrupts your flow whenever that happens. So this week they had left guard Matthew Bergeron leave the game with what was initially called a concussion and then changed to a neck injury, which of course makes everyone panic. He's fine. He's back at practice. Apparently he's good to go. So thankfully, but you lose him in the middle of what was honestly one of his best games. But earlier this year, we lost Drew Dahlman and Caleb McGarry in the same game. Those guys have missed time. We got Ryan Newsel in there now, but he had to miss a few plays last week for Matt Hennessy, another reunion with a former Falcon. So they've been shuffling a lot of offensive linemen in. That always creates problems. But, the other side of the coin is Kirk Cousins does a lot of things well. He can't move. Like, he can't evade pressure. So when they do lose guys and they get into the backfield and get to him, that can frazzle him a little bit. I think in some ways, like all the heroics that he's been able to pull off for this team so far have maybe given him a little too much confidence in being able to continue to do that. I think against the Seahawks, that's what we really saw, was that he believed fully that he could come back in that game. And I think he could have, but a little too much hero ball, a little too reckless with the football, ends up fumbling when he tried to extend a play when he probably should have just taken the sack or thrown it away. And just a little bit of off accuracy. But honestly, like, if you take away the turnovers, which you can't do, but if you did take away the turnovers by some kind of magic potion, then the Falcons had 400 yards of offense. They held the ball longer than the Seahawks, and Bijan Robinson in the run game had arguably their best game of the season. So
absolutely,
the offense is moving in the right direction. This was definitely a blunder, but I'm glad they had the blunder against a non-division opponent, because we got a lot of critical division games coming up. So hopefully we can get this out of the system and they can start they can keep growing, because I think the offense as a whole has gotten a lot more productive, especially how poorly they started the season.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Early on in the season was a struggle with the offense. We were winning games strictly because of our defense. So I definitely agree with that part. And another aspect I thought was hurting the Falcons on the offensive end was a little bit of the play calling. Obviously, as you mentioned, shuffling the linemen is always going to be a huge hurt for any team trying to progress and show some good looks on the offensive end. But there was a little bit of the play call too that was struggling. In the game a couple weeks ago against the Panthers, I was even terrified a little bit because I'm like, all right, now, are we going to ever run the ball? And I'm like, okay, obviously, with the struggles with the offensive line, it makes you a little weary. But when you got guys like Bijan and Algier who are so explosive in the backfield, I'm like, you have to get them involved. So it was nerve-wracking a little bit for the Panthers, at least within the first 3 quarters. And then, obviously, we know they started to pull away. So thankfully, I was able to feel better. But with the Seahawks game, I kind of felt like the Seahawks game was just something that was brewing up to happen because the first few games, the offense wasn't really looking tremendous. They were still trying to find the groove, in my opinion. So when we played the Seahawks, who are a fairly solid team on both ends of the ball, there was just some things that couldn't really get clicking, and coming off those big momentum type of wins, I just couldn't imagine and couldn't help but to think that we were going to run into a team that were going to shut us down from getting the lucky type of plays or the bailout type of plays. So I was thinking about that stuff, but I do also want to mention too, because as you mentioned, the linemen are going down. We know the linebackers have some injuries. Also, defensive lineman is struggling right now too. I want to know, what's your realistic thoughts of the Atlanta Falcons landing another big defensive lineman before the trade deadline? Like, maybe not a Myles Garrett, who knows? Maybe if it happens, it happens. But guys like even a Jeffrey Simmons in the Tennessee Titans, like if they could land another All-Pro defensive lineman, what's the chances of that actually happening?
I think like that type of trade, like for Jeffrey Simmons, who's one of my favorite players. So I mean, I would definitely like it, but I don't think I don't think they're willing to give up the capital necessary, and they have so much money tied up on the interior as it is. I think they kind of would probably feel like that was a bridge too far. But his teammate Harold Landry, that's a different story. Harold Landry is going into one of the last years of his deal. I think that's a lot easier to swallow, and you could probably get that deal done for a much lower pick. Landry's going to be more of a rental type guy, not necessarily a long-term fix, but they need, like you said, they need all the help they can get. I would be watching him. I know there's guys that like Azeez Ojulari from the Giants as a potential one to target. Josh Uche is another one potentially you could go after. I think they're probably looking to more strengthen the rotation as opposed to getting like an impact guy. I think Judon was that guy. Unfortunately, that doesn't look like it's going to work out. I'm still hoping that he can maybe get a little bit healthier, but that was probably their big swing, and it doesn't. That seems like that's missed. So they're probably going to have to settle for someone that's just going to boost the rotation, and maybe that would be enough. I think the secondary has played well, but I think this defense is very, very stagnant. They don't really change much. They run nickel like basically all game. I mean, higher than any other team. Even at end of half situations when you don't really need to have linebackers out there, they still put linebackers out there. They're going to have to make some adjustments to the scheme. I think the pass rush is obviously not good enough, but I think that the rest of the personnel is good enough for this defense to do enough. I think they came up against a team in the Seahawks who are just a really good offense. And, the Seahawks' weakness is their offensive line. If you can get pressure on Geno Smith, we've seen teams like the Giants beat them by doing that. The Falcons can't do it. So we saw what it looks like when you play that team and you can't get pressure. And that's going to happen to this team. But I think the Falcons had a good chance to win that shootout with them if they don't turn the ball over 3 times. You can't have that. So.
Yeah, that was a big issue, man. Just the turnovers. It was 3 straight possessions of turnovers in that second half. And I mean, we talk about the defense too, and the defense, they tried to show up at the end of the game. I mean, they got stops. They limited them to only 40, I think it was under 50 rushing yards in the back end of that second half. So like, that's something they were trying to do. And Geno Smith only completing 3 passes too was something. It just shows like, okay, they have some sort of momentum swinging their way, but when offense is turning the ball over and keeping the defense on the field, it's just like, oh my gosh, like, can we make something happen? So anyway, look, I want to move over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're about to look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. We beat them the first time in kind of a thriller, I guess you could say. It was a wild game, had everyone up late on their toes, a big time win for Kirk Cousins in prime time. But this one's going to happen. It's happening at noon, depending on where you are in the time zone, or 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, whatever. Playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm a little worried because obviously Tampa Bay, they have some injuries in their big receivers, Mike Evans and Godwin. And last time we seen the Falcons like play a team that weren't that good in the Carolina Panthers, they started off slow. So that's my worry here, is that although the Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't have their big time receivers, I don't think they're going to start off slow. So I just want to hear from you. What should be the main focus coming into this Tampa Bay Buccaneers game here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to figure out a way to stop the run, because I think the Buccaneers are going to go to a much more run-heavy approach without their receivers. I mean, there's no way they're going to be able to continue playing football the way they were without
Absolutely
Mike
not.
Evans and Chris Godwin.
No.
And you know, Jalen McMillan has been kind of a disappointment for them. I think he has like the lowest catch rate of any receiver in the NFL right now. You know, Sterling Shepard, I guess, has been kind of a nice surprise.
Yeah.
But, you know, coming off basically the free agent wire, but you know, and we know that Trey Palmer can be a deep threat for them, but it's just they can't run the offense through the receivers anymore, and that's going to require kind of a wholesale shift away from that to a surprisingly good run game. Now Bucky Irving picked up a toe injury out of nowhere, so it seems like that might be more of a two-headed rushing attack with Sean Tucker and Rashad White, with Bucky Irving possibly being injured. So the Falcons are going to have to find a way to stop the run, and I think if they can plug up the run against this Bucs team, which is a lot of teams have struggled to do lately, that's going to be the key, because I think this Bucs team, if you force them to pass the ball, they're going to have a lot more problems. And as we saw towards the end of that Ravens game, like Baker Mayfield's not going to change the way he plays football. So he's going to continue to chuck it out there for these guys and expect guys to make plays. And he could trust Chris Godwin and Mike Evans to do that. I don't know that you can trust these other guys to come down with that ball. And that's going to potentially lead to more turnovers and more of that you know, the other side of the coin for Baker could rear its head more, given they've kind of lost their two main guys out there. So I mean, the Falcons haven't stopped the run well. They did actually have one of their best games against the run last week against the Seahawks, interestingly enough. But so if they can continue that and make the Bucs, you know, have to pass the ball, which you don't really usually say that against this Bucs team. That's a new thing for them. But I think that's going to be the key, because I think this Falcons secondary is better than people think, and I think that I mean, they could definitely handle those Bucs weapons. They're not going to be able to get pressure. We know that. So that, you know, if you probably just need to play coverage and see if you can force Baker into some mistakes and just don't let him run the ball all over you.
Yeah, I would go around that too. I 1000% agree with that. You definitely want to focus in on the run. I doubt the Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of slow down on passing the ball, just because that's been their identity for so long. Within the past 2 years, we've seen Baker Mayfield really let it fly in the air and target his big-time receivers. But even though those guys are out, you still got some sort of threats out there with Shepard. I mean, we've seen the kind of glow up he's been having over the past few weeks. So you just want to be concerned. And I'm not really a fan of bringing pressure. I noticed the Falcons tried to do a little bit last week, and it's just I'm not with it, man. I feel like every time they start to bring pressure, the pass rush is just not good enough to start bringing pressure and still protect over top. So that's where I sit on that. I don't want to say play conservative, because I hate when they play conservative, because it does allow the run game to open up. But I think above all, if you focus on the run game, they do have a good shot. And then obviously, as we both know, they got to make sure the offense is clicking on all cylinders. Like, please, let's not make this game another nail biter coming down to the end when they don't have any weapons right now, because if they do, it's going to be tragic to watch, especially when they have such an advantage right now coming into the game, because Bucs are down so many weapons. So other than that, I just want to say, man, anything you want to add regarding the Falcons and the job they're doing this year so far, or maybe something to look forward to coming up in the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Zach Robinson has done a really good job of evolving this offense week over week. You know, we saw how it started, that just abomination game plan in week one that everyone was like, oh, is Kirk Cousins in a wheelchair? Like he can't run play action, or what's going on? That apparently was not the case. They just decided to do that. He threw that out completely. We'd never seen the offense look like that again.
Thank God.
And ever since, I think he's been iterating every week and adding new wrinkles, and they've been adding more inside runs, and they've been doing more stuff. I think Zach Robinson gets a big thumbs up from me from continuing to work on this offense. We need to see that from Jimmy Lake. We haven't really seen that yet. The defense has been totally stagnant. We need to see some new guys out there. We need to continue to try to find a combination that works on the interior, try to find a way to get more consistent run stopping, and, you know, Troy Anderson. Hopefully we'll see Troy Anderson return this week. Because it's just such a shame that he had kind of his breakout game against the Saints and then gets hurt on special teams in the fourth quarter. Man. It's like, why is this man playing special teams in the fourth quarter?
I know he's like so good against the Saints. He played remarkable against the Saints.
Yeah. They need him bad. They need him real bad.
Yeah.
I don't think Nate Landman is fully healthy yet. He looks, sluggish. And I think he's playing because he's an Iron Man and they need him.
Yep.
But they would probably like him to be able to rest or just play some run-specific downs and then let Troy handle that work. And Troy's really their cover guy, so they need him.
Absolutely.
Hopefully he can get back out there this week. That would be a big boost for the defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. He held his own definitely in that Saints game. He was targeted a lot, and he definitely held his own, came away with that big-time interception as well. But I think you hit it right on the nail, man. Jimmy Lake has to show us something, and now the ball is in his court. Early on, we seen the focus was on Zach Robinson, like, hey, make something happen. It's your turn to show that the Falcons can score the ball, and now it's kind of turned a little bit where we're looking at Jimmy Lake like, hey, it's your turn to show that we can stop teams and actually like keep them from scoring points. So I think you hit it right on the nail there. As far as anything, I'll just say with the Falcons, the injuries is gonna hurt, but they just gotta stay there. They gotta stay there. I know they're not perfect right now, and I know the injuries is there, but as long as they can keep winning these games that they have to win, you got a shot in the playoffs, because anything can happen once you're in that last game of we'll win and go home type of situation. So that's my thing there. I think Bijan has to continue to be used. Algier obviously has to continue to be used, but that run game for me on the offense is the biggest thing. I know last week we seen Bijan Robinson. He had 29 missed he has 29 missed tackles total, and that's fifth amongst all running backs and all players in the NFL right now, which is just crazy. So a guy like that who's getting loose, you got to make sure you feed him the ball. So other than that, man, I'm hoping we can have another conversation down the line, because we got to keep an eye on him. I know you're going to be keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, we got expectations now.
Yeah, we got expectations. It's no longer like, I know they're going to lose this week. Like, we got actual something to talk about. So I'm excited about it. Last thing, and I'm gonna leave you with this. Last thing, I'm gonna just jump all the way there. Hot take prediction: Falcons get in the playoffs or what?
Yeah, I think so. They're probably gonna win 10 or 11 games, but
okay,
it's gonna be a roller coaster. But I think they ultimately do win 10 or 11 games. I think if they win this game, you're pretty confident they're gonna win this division, because we've seen the Saints. It's not good over there. We know what the Panthers are, and the Bucs The Bucs are going into this stretch where they played the Ravens, they play the Falcons, and then they have to play. I believe they have to play San Francisco and then Kansas City, and they could go 0-4. If the Falcons beat them, there's a chance they go 0-4 there, and that's probably enough breathing room for the Falcons to just take this all the way. But obviously, a lot of season left. The Falcons need to win this one, but if they do, they'll be 4-0 in the NFC South, and they will have 2 head-to-head wins over the Bucs and have secured that tiebreaker. So they'll be in great shape. And the schedule is not terrifying. They do have a couple tough games left. Mm-hmm. They got to play the Vikings. Maybe the Commanders will still be scary by the time we get there. We'll see.
Who knows?
Yeah, it is Cliff Kingsbury offense in December, so who knows what to expect from that. Probably, that hasn't gone well in the past. But,
right.
I think if they can win this game, they really just have to go 500 the rest of the way to secure that 10 wins, and I don't really see the Bucs catching up at that point. So
yeah, I mean it's literally the Falcons' division to lose right now. They have to do it this year, because next year is gonna be another story. Team's gonna be healthy. No telling how good Baker Mayfield will evolve to. They gotta win it this year, because they don't win it this year, they might not see it they really gonna have to fight for the next few years. So I'm gonna leave it with that. And then also, Kevin, man, go ahead, let the people know where they can find you, man, on like the social medias and all of that. Go ahead, let them know where they can find the pod and all of your work, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, X, whatever you call it. I'm at Falcoholic Kevin, whatever you want to call it these days. Yeah, at Falcoholic Kevin there, thefalcoholic.com for the written content. The show is the Falcoholic on YouTube is where you can find it there. And then for podcast platforms, it's Dirty Birds and Brews. You can check it all out. It's on all the platforms.
All right, well, cool, man. I'm gonna have to bring you back on come later on in the season. We gotta chop it back up, but until then, man, if you're listening, look, we got some more stuff coming up for you. Just a sec. I've got some news for the run, so stay tuned. You want to hear all of that in the updates of what games you want to watch and all the injuries and updates and stuff like that. So anyway, look, we'll be back in just a sec. We'll take a quick break. It's halftime. All right, and news for the run. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the MLB since we'll finally get a World Series game. So the World Series is happening. The New York Yankees will be taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers, and this World Series is finally getting started after a whole week off. Tomorrow, Friday, October 25th. Maybe that's today for you if you are listening on Friday. Whatever the case is, it's starting finally on Friday this weekend. It's about time. So you can expect to watch that matchup. Then let's move on to college football as well, and I'll show you some of the games that you can expect to be good. Now, before I even do that, Penn State, they're in a little bit of some trouble. So head coach James Franklin, he was accused of rape, but when asked about it in today's press conference, he refused to comment. But however, this investigation is still ongoing as we speak. We know Penn State has been in a lot of trouble over the past few years about player demands and just in terms of the usage and requirements and all kind of stuff that's being forcefully done or whatever. So they've been under investigation for some time. However, on the bright side, some games you can expect to watch this weekend that will be good. You got a Big Ten matchup in Ohio State versus Nebraska. Ohio State, they're currently sitting at 5-1 and ranked number 4 in the country. Notre Dame versus Navy, 2 ranked teams here, will be a great matchup. Indiana versus Washington, which is another Big Ten matchup. Crazy to think. Ole Miss versus Oklahoma, Oregon versus U of I, Illinois, which will be a good matchup. Illinois has been balling. They're 6-1 right now, ranked number 20, and Oregon is ranked number 1 in the country, also a Big Ten team. Alabama will play Missouri, who's currently ranked number 21. Alabama is at 15 right now in the rankings. Should be a good matchup, a must-win for Alabama. Hopefully they finally get a dub. Texas, they'll play Vanderbilt. 2 ranked teams brawling it out, going against each other, and that's happening in Nashville. So kind of an advantage there for Vanderbilt. They already knocked down Alabama when Alabama was a top team in the country. Now maybe they can do that to Texas too. Who knows? Then you got Miami versus Florida State. Miami ranked number 6 in the country right now, 7-0. Florida State has just been trashed. So you get to watch the entertainment of Miami. Penn State versus Wisconsin, great Big Ten matchup there. Got a couple other games too, but I'll just leave it there. And then also too, let's go ahead and move on to the NFL because a couple of good games happening in the NFL, and those are actually starting tonight. But before we do that, let's switch. I know I said NFL, NBA season is back. Not gonna go over every single score in the NBA that's happened, but just know I'm gonna shed some light on it. NBA season is back. Saw a couple of good games. Celtics mollywopped the Knicks in the opening series, or in the opening game, I should say. Also, too, the Celtics, they are about to be playing the Wizards, so it's gonna be kind of a night off, if you will. Anyway, we seen Kevin Durant have a big night, him and Devin Booker. They played really good when they went against the Clippers. They ended up winning that game. It went to overtime already in the first game. Ja Morant is back. Got some excitement there with the Memphis Grizzlies. He had a game winner, or that sealed the game in the fourth quarter against the Utah Jazz. Lonzo Ball is finally playing some basketball, but the Bulls did lose to the Pelicans. Got the Cavs there, 76ers. 76ers just lost to the Bucs. Cavs, they beat the Raptors. I'm going to leave it there, but just know the NBA season is back and rolling. But like I said, NFL season, because we're all in right now, NFL is going down. And week after week, we've been keeping tabs on it. I'm bringing guests on, all kind of different things happening with the NFL. But tonight, you can expect a matchup with the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Rams. That's what's happening tonight. I think the Vikings going to win that matchup. But some of the things you got to watch out for is Vikings. They're going to be playing another top receiver with the Los Angeles Rams. So a lot of people didn't think Puka Nacua was going to be coming back from the injury reserve, but wide receiver for the Rams will actually be playing in tonight's game. Some other things that's been going on, the Rams are still in the news for trade talks. They're open to trading Cooper Kupp. Surprisingly, this has been one of the wild rumors that's been going on over the past week or so, but the Rams, they're open to trade deals involving Cooper Kupp. No sign yet on where he'll go exactly, but just know the name is out there and it very much may happen. However, the Seattle Seahawks, they sent linebacker Jerome Baker and a 4th-round draft pick over to the Titans for Ernest Jones, the linebacker there. So adding a new linebacker there, and then also too for the Detroit Lions, they lost the wide receiver Jameson Williams as he had to face a suspension for a PED usage. So this has been going on over the last several weeks is what they said. He did release a statement, Jameson Williams, and said he was unaware that was even in his body. I'm not going to read the statement full, but the main thing here that you want to take away from this statement, I'll read just a small portion of it. He said, "I don't take supplements or vitamins, and I'm overly cautious about even taking over-the-counter medicine. At no time have I ever taken something in an attempt to cheat or look for an unfair advantage. I understand I'm responsible for everything that goes into my body, and I have to take accountability for this instance. I have nothing but love and respect for the game, my teammates, coaches, the Lions organization, and the city of Detroit. It is disappointing to accept this suspension, and it will hurt me to be away from my team as they prepare for this week. So out of respect to my teammates, this will be the last time I address this matter." And that statement was released today, this Thursday, but we also got some audio as well because Amon-Ra St. Brown commented on it. They asked him about the suspension, and here's what he had to say about it.
We trust him a lot, like Dan said. He was out there practicing with us the past 2 days. Pretty sure he'll be with us next week too. So he's only missing a few days of him actually being in the facility. Obviously, we're going to miss him on game days out there on Sundays, but he's here. He's getting reps and mental reps, all that stuff. It's unfortunate that he has a two-game suspension, but I think, we all talk to him as receivers. I mean, he's doing fine in mental space. He's good. Whatever happened, and he's going to move on from it, and he's handled it like a real man.
All right, and the big-time breaking news here, something that we're going to comment on because I don't know how the hell this happened, but the Kansas City Chiefs, they picked up All-Pro DeAndre Hopkins over the past few days. This was crazy. So the Titans, they received a 5th-round pick that upgrades to a 4th-rounder if Kansas City makes the Super Bowl and Hopkins plays 60% of the snaps. And then in return, the Kansas City Chiefs got DeAndre Hopkins, which is wild. And here's where I want to pump the brakes because this is a key guy. And I understand, Hopkins is not someone who is in his prime and he's not, the receiver that he was maybe 3 years ago or anything like that. So I get where some people are like, oh, big deal. Who cares? The fact is, the reason why it's a big deal is because I just do not understand. I genuinely don't know how the hell the Kansas City Chiefs continue to do this, bringing in receiver after receiver, name after name, elite guy after elite guy. How the hell do they do this? I mean, it's ridiculous. Just thinking about all the different pieces they've had up to this point. Rashee Rice was there. I actually need to pull it up to get a full list of everything because it's been ridiculous. The Chiefs have already went through a great amount of elite talent and skill guys, but somehow they keep bringing them here. And this is what confuses me, and this is what makes me say, okay, maybe they are going to three-peat because no matter what, every time you think the Chiefs are down, they somehow bounce back and grab another piece that can help them survive. Kareem Hunt when Isaiah Pacheco went down. Now you got DeAndre Hopkins after losing Juju Smith-Schuster, and then also after losing multiple receivers. So it's just time after time the Chiefs continue to do this, and it's wild to me. It's mind-blowing because I understand Hopkins isn't that guy, but Hopkins, all he has to do is catch the ball. If Hopkins can catch the ball whenever it's put to him perfectly, the Chiefs are all right. And then let's really not sleep because Hopkins might not be the guy that we thought he was maybe 3 years ago, but above all, I mean, the guy still has some skill. Like, you can't completely count him out. You don't know what type of talent he possesses. He's been with a quarterback who hasn't been able to get the ball past 40 yards. So genuinely, we don't know how many jump balls DeAndre Hopkins still has in him. He still might be able to go up and just grab it over your safeties. Like, we still don't know that because we haven't been able to see that on display since he left Kyler Murray. So him being with Mahomes, I'm sure He still probably has a lot left in the tank, but if we don't know, we're definitely about to find out. And that's the thing that scares me, because the Kansas City Chiefs, they're the last team I want to see have a weapon that everybody thought was washed, and then all of a sudden he's another all-pro again because he's with Patrick Mahomes. What y'all got to realize, too, is, yeah, I know the Chiefs don't really have many weapons right now, but there's been multiple times. We just seen Patrick Mahomes win a Super Bowl with no wide receiver options. He had Kadarius Toney as his number one receiver. Kadarius Toney is his top option at wide receiver and won a Super Bowl. So now that he has anybody there, DeAndre Hopkins, like, this is a huge help. And then it doesn't take a genius to realize Pat Mahomes has the Brady effect of turning no-name guys into big-time receivers. I mean, you become good as soon as you are running routes with Patrick Mahomes on the field, because he can put it straight to you. He's going to use all of your advantages. The same way we talk about how Brady would make sure he uses everybody's advantages to their best. That's the same thing Pat Mahomes does. If you're good at getting plays downfield, if you're a speed receiver, he's going to put you the ball in open space to make sure all you have to do is run. If you can catch, your possession receiver, he's going to put it to you every time where you make sure you got some possession and you can pick up a couple extra yards on that. So, we've seen it with Travis Kelce. We see it with the backup tight end even, is these guys catch the ball in open space, pick up the extra few yards, and then, hey, now you got a first down. So, the Chiefs, I don't know how they continue to do this, but they're making it happen. They're making it happen, man. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared they're going to win a Super Bowl. Because we keep seeing this happen with the Kansas City Chiefs. This team has been like winning games. Pat Mahomes has been playing bad. So imagine when he's playing good and they actually have some talent on this team. So I'm a little worried. I'm not going to lie to you. I think they can still make something happen. And it's just a matter of time until we really, really see how they turn out and what they do come postseason, because we know they're going to be postseason. They already done won half these games, but just imagine all of these receivers that the Chiefs have. Hollywood Brown, and just skill guys that they have. Hollywood Brown, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice. And then if you were to keep DeAndre Hopkins, you were to keep Xavier Worthy, you were to keep Kareem Hunt. Just imagine this whole entire team completely healthy. No way Pat Mahomes doesn't win a Super Bowl. And if any of these guys somehow can come back, it's going to get nasty. So I'm scared. I'm terrified. I'm not going to lie to you, man. The Chiefs, they look like they got the upper advantage right now. And they've been winning games with none of these guys present. So, yeah, man, it might get nasty. Anyway, look, I'm going to leave y'all with this. Shoot us a quick take, 219-413-9405. Leave a quick take if you heard something you want to comment on or something you just want to participate in the conversation. Other than that, I'm going to leave y'all with a positive note here. And the positive note is just going to be as simple as taking your recovery time. No matter what you do, you're going to need some recovery time. No matter how long it may be, how short it may be, you're going to need some sort of recovery time. You got to give that to yourself. You got to think of a person. I mean, look, if a person works out every day, they're a bodybuilder, whatever the case is, there's some point where they need some sort of recovery time. They need some protein to make their muscles grow. They need some sleep to help their muscles grow. There's always going to be some recovery time. It sounds cool to say, oh, no sleep, I'm in grind mode. Sounds cool to say all that. But at the end of the day, you're going to need some sort of recovery time. So try and really, really embrace this recovery time, or the recovery time that you give yourself. It's been the same thing I've been trying to make sure I do for myself, is to genuinely embrace when I am recovering and trying to just relax and actually allow my mind to relax without feeling guilty. Because that's a thing too in its own. That's a whole separate conversation. But it's okay to recover. It's okay. Anyway, look, follow us on Instagram at The Ron Podcast. Also on TikTok at The Ron Podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, go ahead, subscribe. Send it to a friend so they can subscribe. Go ahead. Hey, let them know. Hey, they talked about your team. You might like this episode. Or go listen to another episode and find one they might like. That might be cool too. Or even if you heard one in the past. But send it to a cousin, a brother, an aunt, an uncle, a niece, a nephew, a coworker, a friend, a family member. Anyone you know who's enjoying sports at this time. And hey, we'll be back later on next week. And so on and so on.